and thank you for stopping to smell the damn roses. Today, instead of an interview, I want to do some tutorials because I feel like there's some things that I do that help me with my stress and just bring joy to my life. And one of those things is sewing. So I'm going to do a simple sewing project with you today that my friend, she actually made me these really cool napkins last Christmas, and I'm going to show you how to make them. Okay, so here I have my fabrics. So now I'll just have to cut them out into squares. And I made this this template here. It's 12 inches by 12 inches around. I just like using the template. You don't have to use a template like this. This is just my little cheat. And I find for myself cutting fabric it's kind of therapeutic and meditative for me. And it also is really helpful since my left hand, I don't have as much dexterity. So just cutting and sewing helps me to work my hand out a little bit. So if you have any trouble with the movement in your hands, projects like these types of craft projects I find very helpful. Alright, so this is kind of one of my cheats I use. I like to use this, and then I want to cut 4 pieces of this out. So I kind of use this almost as like a quick measuring device where I could just start folding it on the fabric so I could see how many pieces I could get cut. And this is just because that's the way my brain works. There's other ways to do it, but this is just the way I like to do it. Alright, so I have folded up my fabric, and this is about a yard of fabric here. So with a yard, I should be able to get 6 cuts out of this piece. So then I could get 6 napkins total. So we're just going to cut around here. I'm going to cut on my plastic table because I don't care about this table having little ridges in it, and I'm just going to use it kind of as a cutting board. Don't do this on your table if you care about your table. Alright, so I have my little wheel cutter and my scissors. I put down this metal ruler just so I don't cut up my template too much. So now again we're cutting this at a 12 by 12 inches. So the good thing about this pattern too is that if you don't have the steadiest hand, because of whatever reasons, it doesn't matter. As long as you have your cuts in there, it doesn't really have to be perfect. So if you don't want to make a cardboard template, you could always just take like newspaper or just a big sheet of paper, cut the same thing out, and you could just pin it down like you normally would. That'll do the same thing. Alright, so we have our pieces cut out now. So you need to take like the correct side, the good side, on both ones and put them face towards each other. So they might not line up perfectly. That's fine. And then you're just going to put some pins in. So we're going to sew it along the edges and then leave one side open. It's really important to leave that one side open. All right, let's get to sewing. Right, and like I said, we're just going to sew around the edges. I like to use the edge of the foot here to use as a guide. Alright, so it's sewn now. Take your needles out. Alright, make sure they're all out. Oh, got one. Alright, and then all we're going to do now is flip it inside out, like a pillowcase. Now we just need to go over this with an iron and flatten out those edges so we're going to have nice clean edges. I've noticed that sometimes if you have like a chopstick and you just kind of like run along your edges with it, it just kind of helps poke out those edges just a little bit more. You're just going to want to iron this flat. Make sure your iron's set to cotton. And that's a really great thing about this pattern is you really don't have to make the squares perfect. As long as you get them around 12 by 12, you're really good to go. So that's why it's a good project to do where, you know, maybe you don't have the best dexterity in your hands, but you could still, you know, do something. And then you can make a thing and feel like you made a thing, which is always fun. You always feel kind of like accomplished. Alright, so now you're just kind of folding this over. And just be careful. This is like one of those things that, you know, just don't burn yourself. Be real careful. You can kind of finagle with it a little bit here and there if it's not perfectly how you like it. Alright, so now we're just going to go back and sew around the edges here. And then we will have a handy dandy napkin. Yay! I like to start at the bottom, and that means like where the opening is here. Now you can pin this if you want to on the bottom, and just go around the edges. So you're done with that. I like to leave a little extra thread and I chop it off because I do this kind of weird thing just so you don't see stitches at the end, where I actually tie this off by hand. So I just kind of get the strings and tie it off. Just kind of do a square knot with it. Those tend to stay pretty tight and not come out. And this, again, this is really good, like I said before, if you don't have the greatest dexterity in your hands, this is really helpful doing things like this, little knots and things. Just using like that kind of fine articulation for your hands really does like wonders for being able to either keep what you have or maybe gain a little bit more. Alright. So there you have it. We have a napkin. Yay! It's a very simple project, great to do if you just want to kind of get back into things. This is the finished product. I would say for me, I think picking out the fabric is super fun and getting to see what goes with what and just kind of letting the creativity of color and texture and stuff like that. As you can see from the fabrics that I've chose, I got pretty, I guess, nerdy with these fabrics, but you could do whatever you want. Get floral with it, do some like bold patterns, just however you want to do it. It's your project and you can make it completely your own. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'm hopefully going to do a lot more of these, and thank you. Bye!